Good evening, everyone. You're watching WION Fine Print here on World is One. I'm Aisha Sindhu. We start first in Europe, which is experiencing what's being called a heat wave from hell. Schools across France have been shut as the country reels under the effects of that rise in temperature. In parts of France, those temperatures are expected to breach the 40 degrees Celsius mark. Commonplace for many Indians and South Asians, such temperatures are an anomaly for large parts of Europe, which explains why more than 50 schools in and around the French capital, Paris, have been asked to remain closed as they lack sufficient air conditioning. In fact, most of France is on an orange alert, which is the second highest weather warning in the country. Local officials have issued an advisory on how to beat the heat. The effects of the rising temperatures were seen all around Paris, with those riding crowded public transport having a particularly rough time. Authorities resorted to handing out bottled water at the worst affected metro stations. They also assured commuters that the trains have been equipped with proper cooling systems as well.
Bonjour monsieur.
Franchement, on s'étouffe, on n'arrive pas à respirer, il y a beaucoup de monde et ça nous fait beaucoup de bien.
Now, ice cream sales have naturally gone through the roof as a result of that heat wave.
Yeah, it's a very hot day, and this is nice and cold and refreshing. Perfect for this afternoon.
He's sure grinning and bearing it, but pet owners have been rushing to vets with heat stroke incidents on the rise among animals. Vets have come up with some special tips on saving animals from the simmering temperatures. Meanwhile, authorities have been taking measures to reduce traffic in order to control carbon emissions, which contribute to rising temperatures. Traffic has been restricted in central Paris. Weather experts have blamed warm winds coming in from North Africa for this intense heat wave. And my colleague, WION's correspondent, Elena Casas, is joining us live from Paris. Elena, how hot is it?
About 38 degrees today is supposed to be the high, topping off about 40 degrees Celsius on Thursday. And in parts of the country, we are expected to record the hottest temperature ever seen in France. So at the moment, that's 44.1 degrees Celsius, which was recorded on the 12th of August 2003 during an exceptionally long and hot heat wave that year. Forecasters now say they are expecting that temperature to be beaten by the end of the week.
All right, so that sounds pretty much like a regular week in the summer for many Indians and South Asians, but I can see why it's causing a bit of trouble for Parisians and very many people across France. Are tourists also facing the brunt of all of this?
Well, I think for some tourists, from that ice cream eating gentleman that we heard from a moment ago, it's lovely. People are enjoying lying around in the sun or indeed in the shade on their holidays. But of course, the extreme heat can also be very dangerous for some vulnerable populations like the elderly, like homeless people. France is still was very sort of traumatized by that heat wave of 2003, when it's estimated about 15,000 elderly people died as a result of that heat during the course of that summer. And the French authorities say that they've learned from that summer, they've learned from what went wrong then, and that they are putting in place lots of special measures to make sure that there isn't a health crisis yet. We spoke to the Health Minister, Agnes Wien, yesterday, and she said there hasn't yet been a spike in hospital admissions, but the authorities are doing everything to try and make sure that there isn't one. So that means that they're checking up on vulnerable elderly people every day. They've set up refrigerated rooms and extra drinking fountains and misters around major cities. They're trying to encourage people to come into these air-conditioned rooms if they feel unwell. They've set up 24-hour spaces for the homeless to come and refuge themselves in somewhere cold. This is also partly, of course, because here, unlike in some other countries, almost no buildings have air conditioning. It's actually banned in Paris in historic buildings to put air conditioning units on the outside of your building because it ruins the appearance, which means that very few people have them, and therefore people are sweltering indoors. So the authorities are trying to provide as many cool spaces as they possibly can to avoid the health consequences of the heat.
Indeed, and we do have visuals also of a number of animals who are also suffering on account of the spike in temperatures. Elena, thanks very much for joining us this evening from Paris. Stay cool. We'll keep in touch with you and find out how things fare tomorrow. Remember, that is the day when temperatures are expected to go above 40 degrees Celsius in many parts of France.